Today is a very auspicious day, and in many parts of the world, depending on where you are, Srimati Radharani will be worshipped and glorified. I speak amongst very senior devotees, but let me just maybe share some nice points that Srila Prabhupada gave us on the position of Srimati Radharani. I think that is very important. Sometimes we have our own cultures from which we have come from, and naturally we understand Srimati Radharani through the eyes and lenses of these different cultures. Srila Prabhupada, our founder, gave us a very beautiful lens to understand Srimati Radharani. And it's very important to understand her position in relationship to Krishna. One thing that Srila Prabhupada said is, in his writings, he didn't give so many lectures on Srimati Radharani. And very often when Srila Prabhupada spoke about Srimati Radharani, he never went into any of her pastimes either. So he was very particular and very careful to present her in a very cautious way. There are many famous Radhashtami lectures that if you look through the folio and if you hear Srila Prabhupada speaking, he doesn't speak at all about Radharani. And right at the end, he says something about Srimati Radharani. But he's speaking always about how to remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. So one important point Srila Prabhupada brought up is the fact that Srimati Radharani is the most excellent worshipper of Krishna. That is very important. So we should understand that Radharani's position is not, she's not in the material sense of what we see her to be. I think she's very sad. No, that's fine. You know, when we live in the world where only Krishna is absolute and everything is relative, when a child becomes sad, for that child, it is really sadness. It is. You know, for us it is, it's okay, not a problem. Just like when a child sits for his first exam, the adults tell the child that this is nothing, wait till you go on to bigger ones. But actually that is not true. Because for that child, that is the only experience he or she knows. They haven't gone on to experience something else. So their relative truth is very important to them. And this is a lesson from Bhagavatam actually, that while we think of ourselves as adults, we forget that we are also living very often every day on the basis of relative truth. What is my experience always supersedes your experience. Why? Because it is my experience. But that is a fallacy. Because what I have gone through, you cannot possibly know, and vice versa. The person who appreciates this point, he becomes very peaceful in this world. That's why in the 7th canto, 13th chapter, 42nd verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, Prahlad Maharaj was looking at this great, very renounced person. He was an Avadut, meaning he seemed to be, he seemed to be above all the problems of life. But Prahlad Maharaj observed something very interesting in him. He observed that some days the Avadut was well treated by people. Some days he was ill treated by people. Some days the Avadut was criticized by people. Some days he was praised by people. But in all these situations, the Avadut was very peaceful and he was always Krishna conscious. So Prahlad Maharaj in the 13th chapter approaches the Avadut and he asked him very politely, "Dear sir, I have been observing you. Sometimes you have a luxurious bed to sleep in and sometimes you have no bed to sleep in. So how is it that you're so equipoised amidst so much of relativity?" And he says a very nice point. Naham ninde nachastaumi. He says in that verse that different people are of different mentalities. It is not my business to either blaspheme them or praise them. I only desire their welfare, such that they become one in interest with the Lord. So actually this is a very important verse by which we can live in this world. Because all of us are seeing things through relative truth. And when Shastras tell us that Krishna is absolute truth, therefore, whoever can come to Krishna, we may all have different mentalities. And our realizations of Krishna may all be very different. But because it is connected to Krishna, Brahma Sparshanam, because it becomes connected to Krishna, then all our relative truths become absolute experiences. This is very important. Whereas in our dealings with each other, if we don't put Krishna in the center, then our transactions become what we call relative. And that is where the disintegration of relationships, the misunderstandings, the problems come. So when a child is crying, it is a serious thing for the child. For us, it is nothing. But for them, it is very difficult. And a sadhu who appreciates that learns to appreciate the relativity of everybody's experiences, beginning from a child, actually. So we can learn so much, from that one episode before she went in. That is Ashtra, actually. So we learn, the best way to understand Srimati Radharani, Prabhupada says, is actually to understand that she is the best devotee of the Lord. And because Radharani is not a material entity, that is the other thing that's very important. To most of the outside world, Srimati Radharani is a devotee of Krishna. She is considered the best devotee of Krishna, but Shastras tell us that Srimati Radharani is actually the innermost and most potent potency of Krishna. And that potency of Krishna is known as Hladini potency. She gives pleasure to Krishna. Her life, right, her entire being, her entire consciousness is only meant to give pleasure to Krishna. Prabhupada says in that lecture that all of us are looking for Anand. We're all looking for happiness. The problem is we are looking for happiness in areas which are temporary. And therefore, if you run for temporary happiness, the happiness that you get logically is of a temporary nature, because it is temporary. If you latch on to something which is permanent, then you will derive permanence from it. But if you latch on to something temporary, transient, then it will have to pass, and your happiness passes with it. So therefore, in this world, Prabhupada says, we can either get attached to material energy, which by nature is temporary, and therefore always bringing anxiety and difficulty, or we can get attached to Hladini Sakti, or the internal potency of the Lord. If you want to be attached to the internal potency of the Lord, Prabhupada says the best way to become attached to the internal potency of the Lord is to take shelter of Srimati Radharani. Srimati Radharani, Srila Prabhupada has said, she is so kind. In one lecture, Srila Prabhupada said, Krishna is hard, but Radharani is soft. He says Krishna is hard and Radharani is soft. And if someone wants to come forward to see Krishna, all he has to do is take shelter of Radharani. And this shelter of Radharani is so powerful and so soothing that Radharani herself will bring this person to see Krishna and say, Krishna, this is a sincere devotee. We may have so many faults, but Radharani doesn't see our faults. She sees our bhakti. And that bhakti overwhelms all the material things that we have. So it's a question of fanning this bhakti in our hearts. And Srimati Radharani is very expert in it. Prabhupada said in some lectures that when Krishna had a headache, right? And one time that headache was actually not because he had a headache, but because Narada in Dwarka had seen Krishna. And he had asked Krishna, you have so many wonderful devotees. So who is the best of your devotees? And without hesitation, Krishna said, the gopis. And of all the gopis, Narada Muni asked, who is the best? And he said, Srimati Radharani. And so then Krishna said, why don't you find out the glories of the gopis and the glories of Srimati Radharani? And Narada said, how will I do that? And he said, just go into the world, meet my devotees, and tell them that I have a transcendental headache. And it's very painful. No aspirin, Panadol will cure it. The only thing that will cure this headache is dust from the lotus feet of devotees. If you take that, bring it back, and I put it on my head, I'll be all right. So Narada said, all right, I'll go and find out now. So he went to so many devotees. He went to the Vaikuntha planets, and there he asked them that Krishna has a headache. Do you have, the remedy is very simple. Can I take some dust from the lotus feet from your lotus feet? And all the devotees said, we want to help Krishna, we want to serve Krishna. But how can the dust from our feet touch his transcendental head? It would be the greatest offense, and we will go to hell for that. And so the residents of Vaikuntha did not want to give the dust from their feet. And Narada went into Vrindavan Dham. And when he met even the residents of Vrindavan, they were thinking, yes, Krishna is our protector, Krishna is our loved one. But How can we give the dust? Krishna is so wonderful, so powerful. How can we? And Narada was very amazed. Residents in Vrindavan. But then he remembered there are the gopis. And so he went to see the gopis. Now when he went to see the gopis, he was amazed by one thing that's very important. The gopis were spending time with each other, but they were completely absorbed. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. But they were completely absorbed in remembrance of Krishna. They were completely absorbed. He was just walking around, Narada, and he was seeing the activities of the gopis. Vikretu kama kila gopa kanya murari padar pita chitta vrittihi dadyadikam mohavacha vocha govinda damo daramadaveti grahe grahe gopavadhu kadambe sarve militva samavapya yogam punyani namani patanti nityam govinda damo dharmadaveti. Bilva Mangal Thakur sings so beautifully these shlokas. And these two shlokas, they described what Narada saw of the gopis. And Narada saw that the gopis, they were doing all their household duties and their other duties. Some young gopis would take the milk and the curd and they would go to the marketplace in the morning. And there they were supposed to advertise their wares, right? They were supposed to say, buy this curd, buy this butter. But instead of telling them to buy this, they would just chant Govinda, Madhava, Damodara. And people walking by would think these people are mad people. Instead of selling what they are shouting somebody's names. Grahe Grahe Gopa Vaddu Kadambe. In the evenings when the gopis came back and the residents were there, they would gather together. And instead of talking to each other about how their day was, they would only talk about how Krishna's day was. They would only speak about Krishna. The gopis would feel very bad when Krishna went in the morning. Atitiyad bhavan ahanikananam trute yugayate tvam apashyatam kutila kuntalam shrimukam chate jada udikshitam pakshma kridrisham. The gopis sing in Gopi Git that it is so wonderful to see Krishna in the morning when he's so beautifully decorated by Mother Yashoda. But then very quickly he leaves with the cowherd boys and he goes to the forest and we can't see him for the whole day. But when he comes back, we behold his beautiful sight and he looks even more beautiful because he has dust in his hair, and he looks very disheveled, but that enhances his beauty. However, we curse our creator Brahma because Brahma has created eyelids for us. And whenever we blink, that moment of blinking when we cannot see Krishna is like a yuga. Trute yugayate. It is like a yuga. You and I blink so many times, right? And we can see the deities and blink and blink and blink, and we don't fall down in separation. In fact, we don't see the deity also for a while. We come back, we don't fall down in separation. We see, oh, Krishna, you're there. Very nice. But the gopis, their love for him was so great. So then Narada Muni thought, I should ask them. So the gopis said, how is Krishna? Tell us, how is he in Dwarka? And Narada said, he's having a headache actually. And they became very perturbed. They became very agitated. And Srimati Radharani, leader of the gopis, then asked Narada, what can we do? Tell us what we can do. And he said, there is a cure. It is possible. But we need to get dust, plenty of dust, from the lotus feet of devotees. And the gopis did not even hesitate. Not without any interruption, because their motivation was only to serve Krishna. With no interruption, they just went onto the ground and started digging and digging. First, they stomped their feet everywhere. And Narada was a bit surprised why they stomping their feet everywhere. They stomped as much as they could all over the place. And after stomping, they picked up all the dust where they stomped. And they put it in bags. And Srimati Radharani stomped the most. And she collected so much of dust that Narada thought, how am I going to carry all this? I need a bullock cart because there's so much of dust. So Narada asked them the pertinent question. My dear gopis, Srimati Radharani, do you not understand that if you take dust and put it on the Lord's head, it is considered an offense by many people? Vaikuntha residents will never do that. You're taking a big chance. And Srimati Radharani replied so beautifully. She said that if it means that I have to go to hell and suffer for many, many, many lives, but Krishna can become better and his difficulties will cease, then let it be done over and over and over again. It's all right. It's all right. And then Narada Muni understood why Krishna said that Srimati Radharani is the topmost of the gopis, and all the gopis are very, very special to Krishna. So you can see that the gopis are not ordinary girls. The gopis, Prabhupada said, they are all internal potencies and expansions of Srimati Radharani. And Srimati Radharani is the dearmost and foremost potency of Krishna. And Radharani's foremost quality, of all the wonderful qualities that she has, the greatest quality she has, Prabhupada stated, was that she is completely non-envious. Completely non-envious. And this is a very practical thing for us as devotees. The only way we can advance in devotional service is to decrease and eventually exhume this terrible quality of envy. There is no place for envy in the spiritual world. And the only way a devotee can be happy for another devotee when that devotee is advancing is actually in the absence of envy. So Srimati Radharani, Prabhupada says, has no qualms about introducing anyone to Krishna. She never thinks Krishna is mine, therefore I cannot share him with anyone. No, Radharani lived in separation from Krishna. We must not forget that. Only for a while Krishna was in Vrindavan. And then Krishna left. But he never left because he was always enshrined in the hearts of Srimati Radharani and the gopis. So our mood also is that way. Prabhupada says that we should not think that we have arrived and Radharani is here and Krishna is here. Our mood should always be that where is Krishna and where is Srimati Radharani? Where is the mercy of the Acharyas? And when will that day come when I can serve Srimati Radharani, serve Krishna very nicely? That mood must be there. When you ask the question, where is Krishna? Then the question, when will I be able to serve, comes very naturally. If we feel that Krishna is here, then sometimes the mood of service is not there. Because we take for granted, he's here already. So he's always going to be here. That is why it is always stated, so nicely, that Gauranga Mahaprabhu, even though he is actually Krishna and Radha, as stated by Shastras, he took the form, the golden complexion of Srimati Radharani, to show the world that actually between Radha and Krishna, it is Radharani who will lead us to Krishna. And that is why the Lord, even though he is the Lord, he could have come in bluish, blackish, but he chose, right, he was more favorable to the form of Srimati Radharani. So Krishna is always the servant of Radharani. Even though Krishna is Madana Mohana, Srila Prabhupada says, he is so powerful that even cupids must bow under the attraction of Krishna. But Shastras tell us, and Srila Prabhupada asserts, that Krishna bows under the purity of devotional service that Srimati Radharani gives. And that is why she is known as Madana Mohana Mohini. She is the only one who can conquer Krishna actually. No one else can conquer Krishna. And the other quality of Srimati Radharani that's very important is her chastity. Chastity in devotional service means Ananya Bhakti. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita, right? Ananyas chintayanto mam ye janaha paryupasate tesham nitya abhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. In this verse, the most important part of the verse is actually the words Ananya Bhakti. Our Acharyas tell us that Srimati Radharani is the embodiment of Ananya Bhakti. Ananya means without deviation. Ananya means completely pure. It is unalloyed, as Srila Prabhupada would say, unalloyed. Therefore, there is nothing and no one in Radharani's heart except Krishna. That is the mood of Srimati Radharani. And that is how we must grow in devotional service. That except for Krishna, there's no one else in our heart. We have to move around in this world. We have to love and serve those who Krishna has given us, our family members and everyone. But that love is enhanced by our chastity to Krishna and chastity to Srimati Radharani. Prabhupada was asked by the devotees in the beginning, when they would go out and preach. One of them came to Prabhupada and asked Prabhupada, you speak about single-pointed attention and devotion to Krishna. How are we to be devoted to Krishna even while we are moving around with everyone? How to be so? And Prabhupada told a story. He said that one time, there was a monkey, and the monkey was living in a tree on an island. And there was a crocodile who always wanted to eat the monkey. But the crocodile thought how to eat the monkey because he's so fast and he's always in the tree. So one day the crocodile came up to the tree and said, "My dear monkey, from today, I want to be friends with you. Can we be friends?" So monkey was a bit smart. He thought, no crocodile wants to be a friend with a monkey. He probably wants to eat me. But let me humor him. So the monkey came down and said, "Crocodile, I extend also my assertions of friendship. Let's be friends." So the crocodile said, "Good friends will always help each other. So is there anywhere you want to go?" And the monkey said, "There's an island further out from this island. There's a tree there with lots of bananas. I would love to go there." So the crocodile said, "All right, I will be your boat. I'll be your good friend. Jump on me and we will go." Halfway through, the crocodile thought, "Let me stop in the middle, drown the monkey and eat him," because that's all the crocodile wanted. So he stopped in the middle, and the monkey said, "My dear friend, the island is still a bit further. Why don't you go more?" And the crocodile said, "I'm sorry, my friend. Actually, we came to the middle, and the reason why I've become friends with you is because I want to eat you." And specifically, the delicacy of monkeys is actually their heart. The crocodiles love their heart. So the monkey said, "Why didn't you tell me that you wanted to eat my heart?" And now the crocodile was a bit confused. "What do you mean?" He said, "We're friends, right? You should be open with me. Because don't you know that it is our tradition among monkeys that we don't carry our hearts with us wherever we go. We keep our hearts always in the tree, and then we move around." And the crocodile said, "Oh, how come I didn't know?" And the monkey said, "Well, this is our secret. It's not your secret. But I'll tell you now that you know. So why don't you just turn around and bring me back? I'll go up the tree, get the heart, and give it to you." And the crocodile said, "You're such a good friend." And the monkey said, "You're a better friend." And they went back. And the moment they went back, crocodile said, "I'll be waiting down, just throw the heart down." And monkey said, "I'll go up and I'll throw the heart down." And long time passed, and crocodile said, "Monkey, where are you?" And the monkey said, "Don't you know that you and I can never be friends?" But then the crocodile said, "But my dear monkey, I wanted your heart." And the monkey said, "My heart is never for you. I may be with you, but my heart is never for you." And Prabhupada told the devotees, we should be like the monkey. We may have to move with everyone. We may have to do so many things with so many people. But our heart is always with Krishna. And Srimati Radharani represents that chastity of devotional service. Because even when she came into this world, right, she was found in Raval in the lake midday, which is coming very soon, right? In midday by her father, Rishabhanu Maharaj, right? And they were praying very hard and they were childless, he and Kirtida Mataji. And so what happened was he went into the water and he was taking his bath and he saw a 1,000-petal, luminous, beautiful lotus flower. And on that lotus flower, he saw the most beautiful infant. She was very, very beautiful. She had golden complexion. She had eyes like lotuses, but her eyes were closed and she was not making any sound. When Rishabhanu Maharaj picked her up, Brahmaji appeared. And Brahmaji said, "This child, right, is the source of all energy in this world and beyond. This child is the source of not only Maya in this world, of this external potency, but she is the source of internal potency also. And soon she will be united with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Take her home and care for her." And so he brought her back and they took care of her. Kirtida Mata was so happy to have her. But they noticed one thing as the days went by. She never opened her eyes and she never spoke. Thinking that something was wrong with the child, they were thinking how to have the child welcoming ceremony. But Narada came and he told them that please have it. The time is coming when she will open her eyes. And so they had a very big ceremony, invited all the residents of Raval, Gokul, Vrindavan, everyone. And of course his close friend Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mata came. And along with them, they brought their boys, Krishna and Balaram. And Shastras tell us Krishna was just about a year old and he was crawling around. And while everybody was getting ready for the event, he crawled towards the cradle where Radharani was lying down. And she was very still and she was very quiet and she had not opened her eyes. And somehow or another, with great effort, Krishna got himself up and looked into the cradle. And when he looked into the cradle, Shastras tell us the aroma and fragrance of Krishna like the fragrance of tulsi leaves on his feet. It can change our hearts, it can melt our consciousness. And when Srimati Radharani just had that fragrance drifting into the cradle, she then opened her eyes. And the first person that she saw, that she took darshan, was Krishna. She took darshan of him. And the moment she took darshan of Krishna, Krishna laughed. And then Radharani started laughing. And when Vrishabhanu Maharaj, Kirtida Mata, Yashoda Mata, Nanda Maharaj saw this amazing sight, they understood then that Srimati Radharani was no ordinary personality. It's a very simple pastime, but it's very deep because it tells us a very important point. That Radharani has eyes only for Krishna and her heart is always with Krishna. She is teaching us that eventually, amidst all our obligations in life, our heart must always be with Krishna. And Prabhupada ends that lecture that he spoke about, that even if you cannot, and if you're not qualified to approach Krishna, because Krishna is very transcendental, you approach Srimati Radharani and pray to her as the mother. And you please request her that Srimati Radharani, please ignite within me the fire of devotional service. This will please Srimati Radharani. So the affairs of Krishna and Radha are transcendental. They are not mundane. That's very, very important for us to remember. And Srimati Radharani has so kindly manifested herself in the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare is the evocative mantra. It is actually Srimati Radharani. So before we call Krishna, we start with Hare, which is Srimati Radharani. And then we are given the permission to speak Krishna's name. So let us pray today on Srimati Radharani's appearance that we should become chaste to Krishna, loyal to Krishna, loyal to Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas. We should not look here and there, because how long? Whole life we have been looking here and there. Many lives we were here and there. But it is time for us to take up Ananya Bhakti. And we should always have full faith in Srimati Radharani. And we should learn from her how not to be envious in nature. And we should also learn from her how to serve Krishna without any expectations. Srimati Radharani and the gopis, they serve Krishna with no expectations. They were ready to be separated. They were ready to go to hell. It didn't matter to them. Vritasur, also he actually chants this prayer, which our acharyas say is very indicative of the gopis' mood in Vrindavan. Nanaka Prishtam, na chaparameshtam, na sarva bhaumam, na rasadipatyam, na yoga siddhir apunar bhavam va, samanjasatva virahaya kangshe. He says that Nanaka Prishtam, I don't want to be Lord of this world. Nachaparameshtam, I don't want to be Lord of the higher planets, the lower planets. I don't even want to have siddhis. I don't want to be great yogi. I don't even want liberation. If any of this takes away the source of the opportunity to serve Krishna, then I don't want any of this. So Krishna is known in Bhagavatam as Samanjas. Samanjas means source of opportunity. Today, Krishna is manifested in this house as Samanjas because you have created a source of opportunity for us to remember Radharani and to remember Krishna. So you see, by utilizing our time for Krishna, how wonderful the mercy of Radharani will be. So thank you, Divya Mataji and Abhay Prabhu. You're a young couple. I wish you all the best in your Krishna consciousness. It's a long road, but if you stay together and if you don't complicate matters, that will help. Right? The crocodile complicated matters. The monkey was very simple. And when we complicate matters, we really think, that ridiculous things in this world are real things. Like the crocodile thought, the heart is in the tree. Because we are thinking too much. That's why Srila Prabhupada said, instead of thinking, act. Let's act. So let's end our time by acting. We chant. That is the best thing. So much talk, but better to chant then. Jai. Srimati Radharani ki. Let's chant. Vande Krishna Nanda Kumara. Nandakumara Madana Gopala Madana Gopala Mohana Rupa Mohana Rupa Nandakumara Jaya Jaya Deva Hari Jaya Jaya Deva Hari Vande Krishna Nanda Kumara Nanda Kumara Madana Gopala Madana Gopala Mohana Rupa Mohana Rupa Nanda Kumara Jaya Jaya Deva Hari Jaya Jaya Deva Hari 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 Vande Krishna Nanda Kumara Nanda Kumara Madana Gopala Madana Gopala Mohana Rupa Mohana Rupa Nanda Kumara Jaya Jaya Deva Hari Jaya Jaya Deva Hari 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hari Bol Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Jai Shrimati Radharani Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Shri Harinam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare. Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya, Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya. Jai Radha Govinda Ji ki, Radhe Govinda, Radhe Gopala, Radhe 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 Govinda, Radhe Govinda, Radhe Gopala, Radhe 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 Govinda, Radhe Govinda, Radhe Gopala, Radhe 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 Govinda. Hare Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Gopina, Radha Gopina, Radha Gopina, Jaya Radha Gopina, Jaya Radha Gopina. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe. Jai Radha Rani ki. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. गुरुदेव, जय जय गुरुदेव। जय श्रीमती राधा रानी महोत्सव की राधाष्टमी की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की, श्रील गुरुदेव की, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की। जय गौर प्रेमानंद।